don't know why, but that's where we're at. For some reason, YouTube set this up as a mobile stream. I've never done a mobile stream on here, so I'm streaming from my phone instead of my computer as usual. Can everyone hear and see me okay? I can actually read the comments, which is fairly nice for once. Good to see everyone checking in from all over the world here. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. If you haven't had a chance yet, at the top of the comments there, and I'll post it again now, is a PDF that you can follow along with. You don't absolutely need the PDF. As always, you're free to work through things without it. I highly encourage you to. But as we get to some of the later things today, it's going to take a little bit more work to get going if you don't have the PDF, especially as we get into some of these more fun chord voicings. So I give everyone a couple minutes just to roll on in before we start. Just chime on in on the chat. Let me know where y'all are coming from, tuning in from. It's good to see folks from all over the world. As most of you know, I'm over in London. It's nice and dark and cold here, like it always is in London. You know, a lot of people, nice, warm climates here. That's what I like to see. Actually, I think this is good. This vertical orientation, you can see my uke fairly well, which I like. Today doesn't matter whether you're on high G or low G today. Leslie, you're right. Since when are hard chords fun? Well, you know, doing things hard and pushing yourself, that's fun. It makes playing music more fun in the long term. Oh, good. Someone in Minneapolis. That's what I like to see, Steve. It's nice and cold there too. It's actually not terribly cold here in London, but it always feels cold here, no matter what's happening. See if I can get this chat on my screen nicely so I can see y'all before we get going. So please go download that PDF so you can follow along. It'll really help out with everything. And if you have downloaded the PDF already, you'll notice that there are absolutely no chords written on the page whatsoever. We are not talking about the names of chords today. They don't matter whatsoever. I mean, if you've been following me for a while and played my music, you know that I strongly believe that chords do not exist. But especially today, because what we're working on more than anything is technique and sound. You know, there's a lot of finger independence exercises out there. Many of you have probably done something like the 1, 2, 3, 4 exercise like this, or maybe the ladder exercise like this. We focus a lot on finger independence exercises through the vein of single note playing. But as I'm predominantly a chord player and I do a lot of chord melody playing, I want to practice mine in that sort of style of playing. And getting your finger independence going with chords can be really tough. I mean, obviously we can all play C's and G7s and these things down here. But when we want to get into tougher chord voicings like this and some bigger stuff, maybe we want to play this nice B flat 6 chord here. Oh, how do we stretch out like this? And really the idea is, how do we work ourselves into being able to do this? You're not going to be able to walk away from this lesson today and magically be able to play everything on the stage. The plan is always to walk away with an understanding of what work you need to put in over the coming weeks and months to get where you want on the instrument. You know, our last live stream was mostly about basic technique, and all of that applies here, and we'll talk about it as we go through these exercises, in that it's not just finger independence, it's how we move our body to be able to get our fingers to move freely, because that is so, so, so important. So we're gonna take a diminished chord to start with. As with everything in harmony, the diminished chord tells us so much. Let's just put it down on our 2nd fret for a moment here. And we're just gonna kind of do some stretches. So this isn't on the sheet, this is just a little warm up for us. So you can strum this chord if you want. So 2, 3, 2, 3. And I want you to focus on today. There will be no bar chords today at all. Everything will be individual fingers. All right, so usually I'm not a stickler for fingerings when we're playing, but for today, try to follow along with the fingerings that I am using. It's going to help a whole lot and be able to open some things up. All right, so we're just gonna do some little stretches here. So we have our diminished chord down, 2, 3, 2, 3 is where we're starting. And I want you to just strum it along with me. Isn't this a beautiful sound? A lot of our chords today are gonna sound absolutely terrible, and we need to be okay with that. Lots of tension today. All right, now all we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, and we're just gonna take our pinky and slide it up 1 fret. Leave everything else where it is. And remember to breathe while we're doing this. We're now playing 2, 3, 2, 4. We don't care what this chord is. We're gonna slide that pinky on back to our diminished chord. Now this is a good time to be thinking about, am I pressing too hard on the instrument? Does this seem hard to hold down this entire time? Because we don't want that. So this is the time to take a second and relax your grip a little bit. Make sure that you're not pressing down too hard. Let's slide that pinky back up 1 fret, just the pinky. Get this nice dominant 9th chord shape. Or minor 7, flat 5. It always depends on context. That's why we're not worried about chord names today. Slide that pinky back. Good. Now we're just gonna move 1 other finger. We're gonna take this idea, we're gonna move 1 finger at a time. So we're gonna take our first finger now and slide it back 1 fret. Give us an A flat 7 chord. Oh, darn it. No chord names today. I'll stop naming the chords. We'll call this one Jim. Move that first finger back up to the 2nd fret. We're back to our diminished shape. All right, breathe here. Remember to breathe. This is called chord yoga today. This is our flexibility workout for the day. All right, now let's put the pinky back up 1 fret to the 4th fret. Nice. All right, a double on here. Let's move our first finger down. Leave the pinky where it's at. If you watched our 2 chord shape soloing lesson, this is one of our prime chord shapes on there. And we're gonna slowly walk our way back to our diminished chord. Again, we're thinking here not about the chord shapes. We're thinking about the movements of the fingers. That's what matters. Move the pinky back down 1 fret. And now move the first finger back up. Nice. All right, let's take our hands off the instrument. Just relax for a moment here. An exercise like this, just taking 2 fingers and moving them, is a great way to start out with this. This probably doesn't seem hard for most of you. We're going to get a lot harder in a few moments. But many of these exercises that we're doing, you should keep simple for yourself. Part of what we're working on here is finger independence, but we're also working on flexibility in our fingers. You know, you see me play big chord shapes. Like, I'll just keep coming back to this B flat 6 chord that I want everyone to play at some point today. And people go, well, you have really big hands. And I don't have really big hands, actually. I have a tiny instrument. I do have that. But my hands actually aren't that large. They're perfectly average. And actually, I have some hand troubles. I do have arthritis in my hands, so I can't stretch them out as far as some people. And 2 years ago, I couldn't make this stretch. I've worked on this flexibility, and it takes time to get there. So if you're feeling like some of these chords, like my fingers just won't do that. And for some of us, if you have advanced arthritis in your hand, you have physical problems, sometimes that is the truth. You can't do it, and that's okay. And that's when we find workarounds. But for most people, you can work your way into having this flexibility. And the first step is doing little exercises like we were just doing. Take a basic chord. I love the diminished 7th chord because it's so flexible. And just strum along with it and get used to moving these outer fingers. It's our first little basic move that we can do. Now we're going to take this diminished 7th chord. We're going to put it up on our 7th fret. And if you have your sheet with you, we're actually going to start with the second exercise on here, exercise B. And this is called following the leader. And it's going to be kind of what we were just doing. We're going to do just one movement at a time. So it's going to look like this. And we just keep going. So actually, if you're looking at the page, the first measure is all you need. It looks like there's a lot on the page, but there is not a lot at all. It's actually just one measure of music. So if you get this chord shape moving for once, let's see what happens. So the key with this exercise, with following the leader, is that our fingers never leave the strings. We're moving one finger at a time, they stay here. So we're starting on our diminished chord on the 7th fret, 7, 8, 7, 8. And again, no bar chords here. Use individual fingers or these exercises do not work. All right, so we have this here. And then the first movement that we're gonna do, we're strum this, let it ring, slide your first finger back. We already did this movement. It's nice. But where's our next one that's gonna follow the leader? This is our leader following this down. Our middle finger is gonna come back on the E string. So now we have 6, 8, 6, 8. And then finally bring our ring finger back 1 fret. And then we're gonna finally bring the pinky back. And what happens when we bring the pinky back? We're back in our diminished chord shape, and this becomes cyclical. So we end up with our pattern looking like this. Let's move the first finger, move the middle finger, move the ring finger, move the pinky. Rinse and repeat. All right, so let's just try one cycle of this nice and slowly. And we have this written as quarter notes on the page, but let's not worry about quarter notes. We're actually gonna hold each of these out for 4 full beats. So we have time. So we're starting on 7, 8, 7, 8, our diminished chord shape. I'm gonna tell you which finger to move at any given time. So strum this, 2, 3, move your first finger, 2, 3, we're moving the middle finger on the E string, 2, 3, moving the ring finger, 2, 3, moving the pinky, 2, 3, and back to the beginning. Move your first finger, 2, 3, move the middle finger, 2, 3, move the ring finger, 2, 3, move the pinky. All right, let's go back up to the 7th fret. Take a break for one moment. And let's just try walking that down again. Our goal is to get all the way to the end of the fingerboard with each motion. All right, so we're starting on our diminished 7th chord on the 7th fret, and our pattern is gonna be first finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky. And this is gonna feel for many of us very, very, very awkward. And that's okay. And you want to physically tell yourself, move the first finger. Move the second finger. So we're not telling our brain what to tell our fingers. We're not gonna make those connections. It's always really good to vocalize things while you're playing it. So let's try the same thing. 4 beats a piece on each of these. I'll call out the fingers as we go. 2, 3, 4, diminished chord on the 7th fret. 2, 3, move the first finger. 2, 3, move the second finger. 2, 3, move the ring finger. 2, 3, move the pinky. 2, 3, first finger. 2, 3, middle finger. 2, 3, ring finger. 2, 3, pinky. 2, 3, first finger. 2, 3, middle finger. 2, 3, ring finger. 2, 3, pinky. 2, 3, first finger. 2, 3, middle finger. 2, 3, ring finger. 2, 3, pinky. 2, 3, first finger. 2, 3, middle finger. 2, 3, ring finger. 2, 3, pinky. 2, 3, first finger. 2, 3, middle finger. 2, 3, ring finger. 2, 3, pinky. 2, 3, first finger. Just bring it back. 3. Lift up the middle finger. 2, ring finger comes back. 2, 3, and then pinky. And we should all be down on our final diminished chord here. We've walked our way all the way down the instrument. Now, this is a great exercise, not just for finger independence, but for checking ourselves on whether we're gripping the neck too hard. So I'm going to turn back like this for a moment. I hope so you can see my thumb on here. So I do this, and of course, I'm in a terrible position to play the instrument right now. But I want you to watch what my thumb is doing as I do this. See how it's coming down like this, like right on the back of the neck. We're not jumping down like this. My thumb pivots with every single movement, which means if my wrist is nice and loose and relaxed, that my wrist is pivoting. And this is the key to a lot of these big stretches, is finger flexibility is not everything. We think, I know they make like hand stretchers that you can get that I've seen some guitarists get, but finger flexibility is not actually the main thing. The main thing that we need is this relaxed hand and moving our body in an efficient way. If our wrist is nice and loose and relaxed, as I bring this first finger down, I want you to watch my wrist and my finger as I do this. I'm gonna do it 2 different ways. So this is how we think of it usually, is bring the first finger down. Right? No movement here whatsoever. But watch what I actually do as I pivot around the thumb. And as I bring that down, see my wrist change just a little bit here? Right? And then here's the thing, actually Maria just mentioned this in the comments there. The middle finger, I agree, is the hardest one in this entire move. But a lot of times it's because we try to move our middle finger. And that's not what we want to do. This is me moving my middle finger. That's really tough. So after I've pivoted down here, right, to get my middle finger, I'm actually turning my hand because I'm already anchored right here on the first finger. So when you do the middle finger move, if you put this down, I'm now on 6, 8, 7, 8. So I've made my first movement. What I'm doing is not moving my middle finger. I'm rotating my hand and letting my middle finger slide back. All right, watch this from the side. See how I'm opening up my hand like that? And that's gonna allow me space that I can get these 2 fingers very close like this. I'm not bringing the middle finger back like this. I'm rotating my hand. This is the key. And this is the key to the entire exercise. We bring it down like this, we bring it down like this, we bring it down like this. Someone else in the comments was struggling with the ring finger. Well, now that we have this, we bring the hand back the other way, and that ring finger, we bring it back towards us. And there's my ring finger and the pinky. So really what I'm doing here is while my fingers, yes, of course, are moving, I'm adjusting my wrist with each and every movement. And I'm very much exaggerating right now so you can see on the screen what happens. This is a tiny bit will do you. But this is the key to getting your hand moving, is actually the wrist. That's everything that's happening here. So if you're having trouble with this, because as I said, I have trouble. If I want to just move my middle finger down from here, I have a lot of trouble doing that as well. Of course you're going to get stuck. Pivot around the thumb and let your wrist do the work. Let your body do all the work. Fingers are just not great at doing most things we need them to do on the instrument. We need to set up our body in the right way to make it happen. So this first exercise, actually the second on our sheet, I'm sorry, I put them out of order. The following the leader exercise, we're working on 1 finger at a time, but really what we're working on are pivots. That's the key. We're pivoting down the instrument. And when you get used to doing that, you'll also feel that you can't grip as hard. Because if you're death gripping it, you won't be able to pivot because everything will be locked up in your hands. So it'll help you with that loose and relaxed wrist. And this is why it's so key, because that gets you all over the fingerboard. You're wiggling your way down the fingerboard. So let's look at our second exercise, which is the first on the page that we have. It's called the inchworm. A lot of fun naming these exercises. And it's very similar, except instead of just moving one note at a time. We're now going to move 2 notes at a time. So it's going to look like this. The inchworm, right? Just squiggling on down the finger. One thing I should come back to, the following the leader exercise gives us something really neat harmonically that I didn't mention, is we get diminished chord, 7th chord, 6th chord, minor 7 flat 5 chord. We have in this exercise kind of all 4 of our main shapes that you're going to need. So this is a great one for learning chord shapes as well, just to get used to shapes that you're going to need a lot if you're playing jazz and swing, anything with some heavier harmony in there, you're going to need all these shapes we just went over. Doesn't matter what they're called. They can all do a lot of different things, but it's great for that. So when we're working on the inchworm exercise, we're starting again up on the 7th fret here with our diminished 7th chord. And what we're going to do is now we're going to move in sets. So we're going to move our first finger and second finger first. What were we just talking about? Not sliding this down. If I just open up my hand, pivot around the wrist, we get that, right? That's what we're looking for, is the rotation of the wrist. And then as we bring it back the other way, the ring finger and the pinky will come down, making our diminished 7th chord again. So we're sort of getting the sound of tension, release, tension, release, tension, release. So our 2 basic sounds in harmony as well as we practice this. Now this one I find actually really hard. This is the one that trips most folks up, is the inchworm exercise. So we're gonna take this again slowly. We're gonna do 4 beats on each one. And I'm gonna give you the sets of fingers that we're moving, and focus not on just moving the fingers, but rotating that wrist and squiggling down the fingerboard like this. This is our key right here. All right, and these are great exercises that you can practice without strumming at all. Too, you can just sit there while you're watching TV and do these exercises and get your fingers a little more nimble. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the first and second finger down. 3, 4, 2, 3. Ring finger and pinky. 2, 3. First finger and second finger. 2, 3. Ring finger and pinky. 2, 3. First finger and second finger. Rotating the wrist. 3. Ring finger and pinky. 2, 3. First finger and second finger. 2, 3. Ring finger and pinky. 2, 3. First finger and second finger. 2, 3. Ring finger and pinky. 2, 3. First finger, second finger. 2, 3, and make it diminished. All right, let's take a break and we're gonna try that one again. Then we're gonna add some more to it. So this is helping us move our fingers, not just individually, because a lot of times when we have good voice leading in a tune, we need to move 2 voices at the same time. We need to move our fingers in pairs. And we want to get used to these sorts of movements. Practicing them in a mindless way, not worrying about music, but worrying just about technique is a great way. So let's go back up to the 7th fret diminished chord. All right, and we're gonna do the same exact thing. I'm gonna call out a little bit less this time. Still 4 beats apiece. Squiggle that inchworm on down. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. Middle finger, first finger. 2, 3. Ring finger, pinky. 2, 3. First finger, second finger. 2, 3. Second set. 2, 3. First finger, second finger. 2, 3. Ring finger and pinky. 2, 3. First finger, second finger. 2, 3. Ring finger, pinky. 2, 3. Slide on back. 2, 3. Ring finger, pinky. 2, 3. First finger. 3. And we end on this diminished chord, right? The beauty of this exercise is it goes back up as well, which is the opposite way. So we get to practice these motions in reverse too. So now we're going to lead with the ring finger and the pinky, and then follow with the first finger and second finger, giving us the same motion, but going up the fingerboard now. So we're going to start on the diminished 7th chord on the 1st fret. So 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. Now all of our motions are essentially reversed. So again, 4 beats apiece. We're going to hold these out. So we have 1, 2, 3, ring finger and pinky up. 2, 3, first finger and second finger up. 2, 3, ring finger and pinky. 2, sorry, I overshot it. First and second finger. 2, 3, ring finger and pinky. Remember to rotate that wrist. Let the thumb fall along first and second. 2, 3, third and fourth. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring finger and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring finger and pinky. 2, 3, and end on that diminished chord. Seems harder than it looks, doesn't it? On paper, it looks like we're just moving around 2 little chord shapes. We can all play this and this probably. It's not a big deal. But getting them to work together is really hard. I love what Doc just said in the comments. It's like a dance. All of this is like a dance. That's the reality. When you get this going, and they're moving rhythmically too. That's the beautiful thing about harmony. It's just your fingers dancing on the fingerboard. If you want to get good at dancing, you got to practice dancing. So that's our practice for today. So let's put this inchworm together. So we're going to go down and up. All right? So we're starting up on the 7th fret. 4 beats apiece still. Nice and slow. We're never concerned about making these fast. This is about being in tune with ourselves and what we're doing on the instrument. Speed is not what we're here for. We're here for accuracy. And one thing should always note when we're practicing, do your best to practice in time. Even if that time is very slow, don't play. Practice in time so things are consistent. Even if that's real slow, you can throw on a metronome and go 2, 3, 4. We can do it that slow. And you want to find your comfort level. We might be going too fast for you today, or we might be going too slow for you, although I believe there is no too slow. I do a lot of very, very slow, deliberate practice. And I think that's something that helps more than anything with getting your flexibility and your finger independence is practicing slow and mindfully. It's much more important than just trying to breeze through things and get the job done. Exercises like this are about giving us more facility on the instrument and making everything that we do in music easier. So when I play one of these arrangements that I write or I improvise a solo, my fingers are just there. I can think about music and not fighting my instrument. It's why holding the instrument right, not gripping too hard, and being able to move your fingers independently is so important, because then we can spend more time playing music, which is always the goal. So let's go up top. Let's walk this down and up and see if we can get it right. 7th fret, diminished 7th chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, first and second. 2, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, I would have pivot around that thumb, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. Now we're going back up. Move the ring and pinky up. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. 2, 3, ring and pinky. 2, 3, first and second. And we're done. Chime in the comments who got all the way through that exercise with their fingers actually moving how they were supposed to. It's a tough little exercise. This and follow the leader get so much work done in both memorizing chord shapes. In this, we're using a 6th chord shape or a minor 7th chord shape and a diminished 7th chord shape. And all of these sounds are really important. We're not just playing random chords here. We're playing chord shapes that you're going to see functionally a lot on the instrument. And it's gonna take time to get this comfortable. This is a great thing. You can practice with a metronome if you wanna try to get your speed up. Again, you don't have to worry about speed. Speed to me is never really that important on the instrument. You know, accuracy is much more important. Accuracy and being able to play in time are the most important things. Speed will come once your accuracy and being able to play in time are already there. Once your fingers know the movement, it's easy to speed them up. It's getting this connected with this that is hard. It takes time. As Rachel just said something great in the comments. You know, one thing that you also want to focus on with this is making sure that those strings are ringing out as long as possible. I don't want to hear breaks in between all of it. And you'll get muted at first. You know, when you're making, sometimes you'll pick up. You want to think about sliding these fingers down and making quick, deliberate motions to the next chord every single time. And it always playing legato. Having your notes long and connected is tough on a fretted string instrument, especially uke. We play nylon and fluorocarbon strings. They don't have a lot of sustain. So we're always fighting for that last bit of sustain. You want to do the best that you can with that. So these 2 exercises will cover a lot, but I wanted to do a few things today that would sort of give a little bit more musical spin on this. Maybe we could practice like a little turnaround or something like that. So our next exercise, if you have your sheet, is exercise C. This is called the tap dance. Now, this is another one where we're moving 2 fingers at a time, but the 2 fingers are now going to be swapping strings. And this first chord voicing that we're playing is a very important one that we don't play too much, but I think that everyone should play. So we're gonna start actually with just this first chord. I'm gonna show you some things that you can do on just this one chord voicing before we start playing around with the tap dance exercise. So our chord is this. If you put down your regular old E minor chord, you've all played before, open 4, 3, 2, right, E minor. We're gonna add the pinky on the 5th fret to this. And this is a C major 7th chord. Darn it, I'm not naming chords today. It's a C major 7th chord. This major 7th voicing is something really beautiful that we don't use a whole lot. Probably played that C major 7. And I love this because it's one of the only voicings that we have on uke that arranges our notes linearly. So if you're playing low G like me, on high G it doesn't matter because we're visually arranging them linearly, even though sonically they will not be if you're on high G. But we can see root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, right? And if you have trouble with this, start with the E minor chord. And then again, we try to reach our pinky around, right? We want to get the pinky there. Can my pinky reach? Barely. But if I take my arm and I do this, if I take my E minor chord and I pivot, suddenly I have enough room. In fact, I can get up here if I want. As I said, my hands really aren't that big. It's not about reaching with the pinky, because when we play the E minor, the pinky's usually here. We're flat on. So if you take this and you go like this, that pinky's freed up to get here. And that'll take some practice. You know, you got to find your way to get to this chord. What's so cool about this is we can actually do an exercise that's not on the page of moving every voice. So if this is a major 7th, if we want a dominant 7th, move this down a fret. And this is where it gets really hard for people. 5, 4, 3, 1. But then we can flat the 5 on that here. And then we can flat the 3rd. And then we have a minor 7th chord. My 1st fret doesn't want to go there. And you can practice each of these individually. And this is very hard. But those big stretchy chords that I often put into my arrangements, and we're going to work on something a little bit further, are based around knowing these movements. If you can get these, if you get down to that minor 7 flat 5 voicing, diminished minor 7 flat 5, You can work your way through this. So the first step for most people is once you can get this, once you rotate the wrist, you got it, try to get that first finger down. Some people find it easier with a bar, like this. I'm avoiding bars today. And then get your second finger. This stretch is the hard one on here. And again, focus on finding where you can get that. Then the ring finger comes down. So you can even do sort of a little follow the leader exercise with this if you start it up here. Major 7th again. And work your way down is a great way once you start working on those stretchy voicings. You want to get my favorite B flat 6 here. That's how you start grabbing it, right? This is actually that position there that we're working through. But if we look at our tap dance exercise here, we're starting on that C major 7th. And if you feel like you can't reach this C major 7th, just play an E minor here for the moment. It's fine. We can get the same work done. So for our tap dance exercise, we're going through a few different chords. And we're actually what we're really doing is sort of a 1-5-1 exercise in the key of C. If your forearm's hurting a lot, you're probably gripping down too hard. Relax. Relaxing is really important on this. When we're learning new chords, a lot of times we have a tendency to grip into the neck. That hurts us right here in the forearm. So make sure that you're trying to relax as much as possible. And as always, we were talking about in our last live stream. Do you need the thumb? You should feel like you don't need the thumb when you're playing. And that'll get you to a point where you're not gripping down and you don't get that forearm pain on there. So just be careful. As always, people were saying in the comments that their forearm was getting a little sore from this. So just be careful and listen to your body while you're playing as well. Don't push yourself. Little bits of flexibility at a time. So if we start on here, our first tap dance is going to be the pinky coming down to the A string and the first finger coming to the G string. They're just swapping spots. So we get. Now again, what is this? Am I moving my fingers? No. Rotation of the wrist and letting those fingers come in. So let's take this first little movement in the tap dance section. All right, so we're just going to swap back and forth. Let's do 2 beats a piece on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Swap the first and fourth and back. And back. Swap. Yeah. And swap. All right, now we're gonna have another swap. And this is actually, if we're looking at the chord shapes on the page, it looks like we're just moving one note. But because of the way that we need to play this, we actually have to swap 2 fingers again. And all of this, we're gonna be swapping 2 fingers across strings. We're working on string skips here. So we get, and our next one is the middle finger is coming to the 4th fret of the G string. The first finger is coming to the 3rd fret of the E string. So we get 4, 4, 3, 5. All right, so what we want to make sure of, we're coming from this chord here to this chord here, make sure that our ring finger and pinky are staying in place. These are common tones between the chords. In fact, this ring finger hasn't moved, has it? That's our anchor point on the instrument. We're going to focus on just these 2 chords, right? This second little tap dance, and then we'll put it together with it. So we're starting on the 2, 4, 3, 5. We're going to do 4 beats a piece on this now. And then we're going to go and we're going to bring our middle finger over and our first finger over. So we're making that switch. 4 beats a piece. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Ring finger. There's your middle finger and first finger. Come over. 3. Swap the middle finger and first finger on strings. 2, 3, 4. Middle finger and first finger. 2, 3, 4. Swap them back. 2, 3, 4. Swap those fingers. All right, this is our little tap dance. Let's go back to that first major 7th. As I was saying in the comments, they're having a problem with their pinky locking up. A lot of times, that's just simply that we're, again, so many problems come to we're pressing down too hard on it. Try to relax your hand a little bit more, which is much, much easier said than done. But try to keep your hand relaxed. If you have trouble, if it locks up, take your hand off the instrument, shake it out. Remember what being relaxed actually feels like, and then bring it back to the instrument. And keep resetting yourself physically. It's really important when we're doing exercises like this. We don't want to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Give yourself breaks, shake your hand out. Remember what it feels like to be relaxed. It's not a feeling that we get a lot in life. All right, so let's try these first 3 movements. So it's going to look like this. So we're going to have our major 7th. Swap the 1st and 4th fingers. Swap the 1st and 2nd fingers. So see how we're just walking here, up and down the instrument. This is when we start to get some really beautiful harmony going on. We're going like major 7th, 6th, 9, major 9 chord. Really beautiful, like major sorts of sounds. This position can be used a lot if you're just hanging out on a major chord for a minute. So let's try these first 3 movements back and forth before we get the next one. 2 beats apiece. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Swap the 1st and pinky, 1st and 2nd, and back. 1st and 2nd. 1st and 4th, and back. 1st and 4th again. 1st and 2nd, and back. 1st and 2nd, and then 1st and 4th. One more time. 1st and 4th, and landed on that major 7th chord. Even this, and these first 3 chords of this exercise are beautiful exercise in and of themselves. Just getting used to these nice, beautiful movements here is really, really, really a great thing. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually just going to start pushing some things up, so we don't have to tap dance on this next chord. So we're here, 4, 4, 3, 5. And we're going to move the ring finger and the pinky up 1 fret. But notice they're staggered by a fret from each other, right? Well, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? We're going to need to resolve that, I think. So we end up with 4, 5, 3, 6. Again, we're just giving a little stretch to the pinky, maybe a little bit bigger than you need to. So here's our movement. So we have 4, 4, 3, 5. Move the ring finger and pinky up 1 fret. We got a dominant 7 sharp 5 chord now. Play that with me. Just the ring finger and pinky each moving up a fret. It's different than our inchworm because they're staggered now. There we go. All right, and now let's get our next one on here. So what we're going to do is a tap dance with the 1st and 2nd finger, both coming to the 4th fret. So we got 4, 5, 4, 6. So there's our tap dance, 1st and 2nd finger tap dance again. All right. And then finally, we're going to slide it on up to 5, 7, 5, 7, the 6th chord shape that we've already played. So, as I said, all of these exercises, we're not going to perfect tonight, but you can work on this in bits and pieces. You don't have to work on this tap dance exercise, although it's the shortest one on the page. There's a lot in here to practice. There's a lot of movements. And when you're done with it, it sounds like this. Again, it's a nice sort of like 2-5-1 exercise in the key of C. Walk it backwards, coming back. It's a fun exercise that's going to open up, again, how often do you play these chord voicings? In most of your songs? Not very often, right? Step outside of your comfort zone with all of these chord voicings that we're doing, force your fingers to do new things. You need to come into this with a beginner's mindset. Remember when you first picked up the instrument and you were like, yes, C is great. And you're like, F, my first finger keeps hitting the A string, right? Something like that. And you go to G7, you're like, that's a lot. Remember that first day when G7 seemed like a tough chord? None of these are really any harder than a G7. This is not any harder than an F7 you've probably played before. Just a matter of we haven't done these shapes enough. And if we practice them, they'll be under our fingers and they'll be easy for us. And we'll be getting more flexibility, but more learning how to use our body and use our hand and our wrist to get around these. Now, on the second page, I'm just going to go through these exercises quickly because this is a lot to take in right now. But I wanted to give you some practical ways that we can actually apply this to music. Exercises are great, practicing chord scales. We have this. This is a 2-5-1 exercise that you can use in the key of C. So that's one thing. But there's a lot of different ways that we can look at this. So I came up with this little one because I wanted to show you an exercise that I do. Many times I'll give myself constraints in my practice for the day. What am I doing here? And how am I forcing myself to stay inside a box? Because when I play music, I don't want to be inhibited to a box. I want to play whatever the heck I want in the moment. But when I'm practicing, putting yourself in boxes, in constraints is very important because then you're working on the things that you can break out of. So this one's called These Foolish Chords, which is actually just a little introduction to These Foolish Things. Probably familiar with the tune. These foolish things remind me of you. But my exercise in doing this, and I had actually written up originally the entire tune in this method, the goal was to force myself to find harmony where my fingers never left the fingerboard. That I started in this shape, and every sound that I came across had to be here. Da da dee da do do da da dee da. And then we're into the tune. So let's look at what's going on in these foolish things exercise. We're starting on 5-7-5-7. Like that's the melody that we're doing. We're doing a little chromatic substitution here on the end, but we're hearing. Right, I'm sorry. That's what we're hearing. So we're harmonizing it. This shape, this minor seventh or sixth chord shape that we've been using the whole time. And then I'm using one of my ideas from like the follow the leader exercise where it's jumping into it. 6-7-6-8. We've seen that. And then this shape that I'm doing right here, we were just playing that down here in this exercise. We were just practicing that shape. Coming up to that shape. And then I'm right back in this same shape. This is acting as sort of one of my major sounds, my stable sounds in this sort of thing. So we get. Try the little walk up with me. 1, 2, 3. Even just that is a great exercise. Just walking through these great little things. And these are things where you're taking a chord melody solo that you'll find are really, really helpful. And then we come down from up here. I need this melody note down here, and I want a dominant sound. So I'm coming down to this shape. We already used up here. And I'm just sliding that shape up. So I'm really only using 3 chord shapes in this entire thing. Watch. This chord shape, this chord shape, and this chord shape. Those are all of the chord shapes that I'm using in this entire exercise. We're back to the original one, the second one, and back to the original one. So if we think about it like that, we get a good practice, but note, the goal here, right, is that I'm working on those pivots. My fingers are never leaving the fingerboard here. All right, so this little exercise over these foolish things can be a great way to just work on applying this to a tune. And if you want, you can also, of course, take this and make it happen over the whole song. But this forces me to come up with harmonies that I might not think about if I'm thinking about music theory, about thinking what's been done here. What do I want to do here? What chord shapes do I know that will work in this space, that say what I want to say? Sometimes sitting in the box and saying, well, what am I not allowed to do here? Well, I'm not allowed to pick my fingers up off the instrument. Forces us to think of brand new harmonic ideas that we wouldn't think. Would I usually think of like a D minor chord, playing this D minor 11 sort of shape? Like that would not be the first thing that comes to my mind. And likewise, this minor 7 flat 5 shape here, for harmonizing this note, that's not what probably not be the first thing that comes to my mind. Especially this D flat 9 chord here. This is ending up with a tritone substitution for my 5 chord, getting me in here. It's not because I'm thinking I want a tritone substitution here. I'm thinking, well, this thing gives me the sound that I want within the constraints, and then I can worry about what the heck it is later. All right, so you can work on this little exercise, and this foolish things exercise puts together a lot of the concepts that we work on in the beginning. Now, if you want to work on those stretchier chords, I've put together this exercise for the tune It's Always You. And it starts off with this big one. I was talking about this. Now, it could be this, but I decided to be nice. So actually what we're going to do is all of these chords incorporate triads on the G, C, and E strings while keeping the A open. The A is acting as a color tone to all of these. Sounds like this. Very open sort of sound. What we're doing here is practicing triads. So we get it. Whenever it's early twilight, I watch till the stars, they break through. Funny, it's not a star I see. It's always you. And repeats. Whenever I roam the roses, lately I often do. Funny, it's not a rose I touch, it's always you. So we work on harmonizing tunes by using these stretchy voicings. Force yourself to try these new things. Now, It's Always You is what we're doing on the Magic Ukulele Club this month. I know there's a lot of members here already. We're going to be working through Chet Baker's version of It's Always You, including his trumpet solo, and putting some more of these chords to use and talking about 2-5-1s and all those fun things. So over the next couple weeks, couple months, when you have time, just throw a couple of these exercises into your repertoire for practice and start getting used to moving all these chords around. When we get in the habit on uke of just playing the chords that we know and playing the songs that we know, it's great. We can play music, but if you want to take that next step up, you got to force yourself to break through that wall of this chord is too hard. Start with the follow the leader exercise. Once this is perfect, you're good. Then go on to the inchworm, and then start with the other exercises on here. And then you can start using tunes as your exercises. Chris, yes, this is recorded. We'll have this back up for replay for everyone. So you can come back here and you can practice along with this video as many times as you want. Watch my hands as we go. So take some time and just put this into your practice. Start to force yourself to play some of these. Never fight pain in your hands. If you're hurting in your hands, always think about, what am I doing on the instrument to cause this? Is this actually something that I can't do, or am I not setting myself up to be able to play this efficiently and effectively? And most of the time, it's the second. It really is. And I know, because I've run into this myself. I feel like some things are impossible. In fact, I remember when I was like, some arrangement of Moonlight in Vermont that had these stretchy voicings up front, like this, based on the Johnny Smith arrangement of the tune. I think my wife does not ever want to hear that song again, because I sat there for a solid 4 or 5 hours working on just the first couple chords of that tune and getting those big stretches, because they just seemed too big for me. But eventually I was able to get them, because I figured out how I had to move my hand to get there and get them to come out cleanly. And it takes time and it takes perseverance to get there, but you will get there. That's the big thing. Keep at it, and you're just gonna get better on the instrument. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday to hang out with me and play some uke. I'll see you all soon. Cheers.